Hello guys, welcome to the channel. This is the next chapter that we are going to study, chapter number 4, Emergency Provisions. So, emergency provisions are there in part 18 of the Constitution from the article 352 to 360. It converts the federal structure into a unitary one without a formal amendment to the Constitution. There are three types of emergencies. Number one, an emergency due to war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. This comes under Article 352 and it is called the national emergency. Number two, an emergency due to the failure of constitutional machinery in the state is called the President's Rule and it comes under Article 356. It is also called as constitutional emergency or state emergency. The third one is the financial emergency due to a threat to the financial stability or credit of India under the Article 360 is called the financial emergency. Let's study these emergency in detail. So next subheading, national emergency. Grounds of declaration. Article 352 says the President can declare a national emergency when the security of India or a part of it is threatened by war or external aggression or by armed rebellion. Next, President can declare it even before the actual occurrence of the war. Next, by the 38th Amendment Act 1975, war or external aggression to be known as external emergencies and armed rebellion to be known as internal emergency. The next, 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, the word armed rebellion was replaced by internal disturbance in the Indian Constitution. Next, the President, however, can proclaim a national emergency only after a written recommendation by the Cabinet and not merely on the advice of the PM. Next, the 44th Constitutional Amendment 1978 on given by the Minerva Mills case 1980, that is proclamation of emergency can be changed in a court on can be challenged in a court on the grounds of malafide. Next subheading, parliamentary approval and duration. It may be approved by both the houses of parliament within 1 month from the date of the issue. If Lok Sabha has been dissolved and meanwhile Rajya Sabha approves it, then the provision survives for 30 days from the first sitting of the Lok Sabha. Next, if the approval by the Parliament, the emergency continues for 6 months and can be extended after every 6th month. This point was added by 44th Constitutional Amendment 1978, which also said resolution proclaiming emergency must be passed by a special majority, such that number one, majority of total membership of that house. Number two, a majority of not less than 2/3 present and voting. Next subheading, revocation and proclamation. It may be revoked by President at any time and does not require the parliamentary approval. Next, also the President has to revoke it if Lok Sabha passes a resolution disapproving its proclamation by a simple majority. Next, effects of national emergency. Subheading, on the center-state relations. Number one, executive. The state government are brought under the complete control of the center, though they are not suspended. Next, legislature. The parliament becomes empowered to make laws on any subject mentioned in the state list. This law cease to operate after 6 months after emergency is over. Next, the President can issue ordinances on the state subjects if the Parliament is not in session. Next is financial. President can modify the constitutional distribution of revenues between the center and the states. He can either reduce or cancel the transfer of finances from center to the states. Such modifications continues only till the end of the year. Such order of President has to be laid before both the houses of Parliament. Next subheading: effects on the life of Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly. Life of the Lok Sabha may be extended beyond its normal term, that is 5 years. Next, this extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months after the emergency is over. Next, Parliament may extend the normal tenure of a state legislative assembly, that is 5 years, by 1 year each time. Next subheading: effect on the fundamental rights. Article 358 and 359 describe the effect of national emergency on the fundamental rights. Article 358: suspension of fundamental rights guaranteed by the Article 19. And Article 359: other fundamental rights except Article 20 and 21 are suspended. And this was done by the 44th Constitutional Amendment 1978. The next subheading is suspension of fundamental rights under Article 19. Article 19: when a proclamation of national emergency is made, the 6 fundamental rights under Article 19 are automatically suspended. No separate order is required. This is given under Article 358. After the emergency is over, any law made during the emergency to the extent of inconsistency with Article 19 ceases to operate. Next, according to the 44th Constitutional Amendment 1978, under Article 358, the fundamental rights of Article 19 can be suspended only when the national emergency is due to the war or external aggression and not on the grounds of armed rebellion. Next subheading: distinction between Article 358 and 359. Number 1. Article 358 automatically suspends the fundamental right under Article 19, whereas Article 359 does not automatically suspend, it empowers the President to suspend. Number 2. Article 358 operates only in case of external emergencies, whereas Article 359 operates in case of both external as well as internal emergencies. Number 3. Article 358 extends to entire country, whereas Article 359 extends to entire country or a part of it. Number 4. Article 358 suspends Article 19 completely, whereas Article 359 does not empower the suspension of the enforcement of Article 20 and Article 21. Next heading: President's Rule under Article 356. It is also called state emergency, or it can be called constitutional emergencies. Article 356 empowers the President to issue a proclamation if he is satisfied that a situation has arisen in which the government of state cannot work according to the Constitution. If the state fails to comply with or to give effect to any direction from the center. Next subheading: Parliamentary approval and duration. It must be approved by both the houses of Parliament within 2 months from the date of its issue. If issued at time when Lok Sabha is not in session, the proclamation survives until 30 days from the first sitting of the Lok Sabha, provided the Rajya Sabha approves it in the meantime. Next, the approval by both the houses, the President's rule survived for 6 months. It can be extended. A proclamation of President's rule for maximum period of 3 years with approval from Parliament every 6 months. Next, it needs only simple majority such that a majority of members of House present and voting. The President rule is for 1 year initially, then approved after every 6 months. Only when number one, national emergency should be in operation in whole India or state or some part of it. Number two, the election commission must certify that the general elections to the legislative assembly can't be held because of the emergency. Consequences of president rule. Number one, president takes up the function of the state government and powers vested in the governor. He can declare the powers of state legislature to be exercised by the parliament. Next, president can dismiss the state council of ministers headed by the chief minister. Then next, the constitutional position, status, powers and functions of the concerned high court remains the same even during the president's rule. Next subheading, scope of judicial review. According to 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, the satisfaction of the President is not beyond judicial review. Next, if the courts holds the President proclamation to be unconstitutional and invalid, it has the power to restore the dismissed state legislative assembly if it was suspended or dissolved. Next heading, financial emergency, Article 360. Article 360 empowers the President to proclaim a financial emergency when the financial stability or credit of India or any part of it is threatened. It is also comes under judicial review. Next subheading, parliamentary approval and duration. It must be approved by both the houses of the parliament within 2 months from the date of its issue. Once approved by both the houses, the financial emergency continues indefinitely till it is revoked. Subpoint, there is no maximum period prescribed for its operation, and repeated parliamentary approval is not required. Next, it can be passed by either house of the parliament with a simple majority. Next, it may be revoked by the president at any time by a subsequent proclamation. Such a proclamation does not require parliamentary approval. Next subheading, effects of financial emergency. President may issue direction for the reduction of salaries and allowances of A, all or any classes of persons serving in the Union, and B, judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court. So, the important articles of the chapter: Article 352, National Emergency; Article 354, Distribution of Revenues; Article 355, Duties of Union to protect states against external and internal aggression; Article 358, Suspension of fundamental rights under Article 19; and Article 359, Suspension of enforcement of other fundamental rights except Article 20 and 21. And last, Article 360, the financial emergency. So this was all about the chapter of emergency provisions. See you in the next chapter. Thank you.